Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I have a video here to review a movie that I went to see today. It's 2.5 hours long. It came out in 2023, obviously. It's directed by Andy Muschietti, who I'm probably going to just call Andy Spaghetti. I don't really know why, but I just kind of feel like it's easier than Muschietti, however you say his name. Anyway, The Flash, the 2023 best superhero movie of all time. You know, I've had some friends, before I get into the review, tell me that they went to see this film, one of them being one of my favorite YouTubers on YouTube, a friend of mine named Horror Free For All, or Horror FFA. He also has another channel called Austin in the Middle. You might see either of those comments down in the comment section down below. Really good friend of mine, great content, really recommend the guy's channel if you haven't seen him before. But he mentioned that he had went to see this. He's a big comic book fan like myself. I love DC I prefer over Marvel. And I actually have a trilogy of films that are kind of my trilogy now, outside of like the original Star Wars films or the prequel Star Wars films or really anything. A lot of my friends have their massive 12-hour trilogies like Lord of the Rings and whatever else. But this is kind of mine, that I've watched all three of these movies so many times, repeatedly, since 2013, and that is Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, Ultimate Cut, and Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League. I love them. They're not perfect, Man of Steel is, but the other two have their flaws, but I love them. I think they're absolutely incredible. If you watch all of them back-to-back, you have 4 hours of Justice League, 2 hours of Man of Steel, if not a little bit longer, and also like a 3-hour cut, which is the Ultimate Edition of Batman vs. Superman, so right at like 9 hours. It takes a long time to watch all of these, and I love them deeply. This is kind of my newest trilogy that I've seen in recent years. That is my trilogy, not John Wick. I don't fucking like that crap. I love these. These are so damn good. They're some of my favorite superhero movies ever made, not even just recently, but ever. I love them deeply. And I kind of wondered if I would have a quadrilogy, you know? I was kind of hoping that this movie, The Flash, that's been in production hell forever, would come out and maybe I'd have a quadrilogy, because this film being 2.5 hours, the only reason I went to see it is not fucking Ezra Miller, fuck that guy. I look for Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton, who I knew both of those two were going to be in this movie. This is a multiverse movie, which is just wannabe Spider-Man No Way Home, and I was hesitant about all that. I was hesitant about what they were going to do. As DC Warner Brothers, this is the film that James Gunn swears is like the ending of the Snyderverse, and unfairly so. It kind of is. It's kind of a slap in the face and a shit on the chest of people like myself who love Ben Affleck as Batman, Henry Cavill as Superman, and Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. Those are the 3 best castings I've ever seen for those superhero roles, and I think they are all the best, just like I think Grant Gustin would have been a better Flash, and he is a better Flash, than Ezra Miller. But that's neither here nor there. This movie is 2.5 hours long, and I sat through it with an asshole sitting in front of me that would eat up a little hand of popcorn that his girlfriend, wife, whatever had, and then he would like aim towards another family over here and be like, and spit the fucking kernels out that he would pick out of his teeth with his fucking tongue. Yeah, that's the kind of movie experience I had, and that's not the reason this movie sucked. That guy was an asshole. I hope my laughing, throughout this shitty movie, I hope it ruined his time the way he was bothering me. Because I laughed at the most inappropriate things that I probably shouldn't have laughed at, that I couldn't help but laugh at because of how horrible this movie was. Anyway, The Flash is a movie that I don't know if I was necessarily excited for, but I saw things that were curious, like Chris Stuckman's review, or the IMDb rating score, which I know was changed recently on the formula for how they calculate the average review because of Little Mermaid and the controversy behind that and surrounding that. This movie on IMDb is a 7.2 out of 10 stars. 7.2. I went to it today with a little bit of hope. You know, my wife was at work. I didn't really have anybody to hang out with, not my mom, my grandfather, anybody. So I thought, you know, I'll go to the movies. I'll enjoy a 3-hour-long film, get a popcorn and a Coke, which was $25 for my ticket and a popcorn and a fucking drink. $25. Holy shit. In the name of inflation. Anyway, I was already kind of pissed about that. Then I had Mr. Colonel over here, who was determined he was going to spit towards a family over here constantly throughout the movie that was sitting a few rows in front of him. And then I saw a bad movie that I wanted to like, because you want to like anything you spend money on. You know, I didn't have a whole lot of hope, but I was interested. I wanted to see this not, again, for Ezra Miller, but to support my boys, Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton coming back, of course, to play Batman after he hasn't since like the 90s with Batman '89 and then Batman Returns. Which, by the way, is... This movie might throw an odd question in your path. I'm not going to tell you why, not going to spoil it for you. But is Michael Keaton's Batman the same Batman as Val Kilmer and George Clooney? Aren't those 4 films in one series, even though Joel Schumacher did a couple of the latter films? And the first 2 here are Tim Burton. I was under the impression as a kid and even as an adult until today that all 3 of those actors were the same Batman, the same Bruce Wayne character because of the design of the mansion, because of Michael Gove, the same Alfred in all 4 of the movies. What the fuck? I'm so confused, especially by the end of the Flash movie and a little bit of a change-up they do. Anyway, this is a multiverse movie, and what that essentially means is we're going to grab things from over here and things from over here in the past, a nostalgia bait trip, again, kind of like No Way Home promised and then really pulled off. And I loved No Way Home. I thought No Way Home was incredible. Even though I'm more of a DC guy, I've hated everything Marvel's put out post-Endgame except for Spider-Man No Way Home, which I think was, to me, the only headcanon sequel that I consider to be damn good and really great, frankly. It's the only Spider-Man movie Disney has made that I loved. I think Homecoming and No Way, or Far From Home, whatever, all fucking suck. I think they're bad and rough, but at least they're fairly watchable. Then you have things like The Flash that I never want to see again. What is this film about? What is this film about? Well, I have friends who've told me it was horrible. Like my boy, Austin in the Middle, who told me it just kind of made him give up hope. Now, mind you, I have not liked many other DC things. I think the first Aquaman movie is horrible. Part 2 hasn't come out yet. I thought that was coming out before this, but it didn't happen. Then you had, like, Birds of Prey, which was the fucking worst of all of them because of how political and wannabe it was. It sucked ass. I saw both of the Suicide Squad films. Not really a fan of either. I think both kind of suck in their own individual ways. One has better filmmaking than the other. They have their own problems. Not a fan. The theatrical cut of Justice League from Joss Whedon is fucking abominable. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. People try to pretend like it's average, but it sucks. It looks like a TV movie like the first Avengers movie that I don't like. I'm sorry if you hear that noise. There's people flying down the road at 5 o'clock traffic and they're fucking up my house, making everything ring and vibrate. So, moving along, though, to the plot of this movie. What is The Flash about? Well, basically, Ezra Miller comes back to play The Flash, Barry Allen. He's still trying to solve his dad's situation where he's being accused of his mom's murder. And the film never really resolves that too much, but out of the guilt in missing his mom, they decide to remake and recreate the first season of The Flash TV show from CW, which was incredible. I love that show's season. The first season and the third season, that's all I watched. Season 2 sucked ass. Never gave a shit afterward. But season 1 of that show handled the themes that this movie handles, about choices, about your life decisions, the issues and problems and drama that you face in your life, how you just have to let some things go. Season 1 of The Flash took more time to develop that theme, but it did it way better, and Grant Gustin's better in general. This movie goes about that. Barry accidentally travels into the past, well, kind of the future, but then kind of the past too, and he ends up going back, putting something as simple as a can of tomatoes into his mom's basket at the grocery store to prevent her from basically being murdered by the butterfly effect. Not like murdered by the butterfly effect, but to prevent her murder with the butterfly effect, so hoping that if he changed this one little thing, everything else would change. He goes back to modern day, and he eventually encounters himself, a younger version from college, like his first year in college. And this version of Ezra Miller is played by Ezra Miller. This version of Barry Allen is like a Bill and Ted knockoff, and he's fucking annoying. And that's kind of the point of his character, but Ezra Miller's not a good enough actor to define these two characters well enough to make them distinct, but also the same. It doesn't really do that. I can't see this kid, this weirdo skater boy wannabe that has a Pacific Rim poster in his fucking bedroom in college, becoming what Barry is in this movie, where he's basically Barry from Justice League, but less annoying, but kind of still doing improv comedy that fucking sucked. It's all over the place. This movie's a fucking mess, and I hate it, if I'm being honest with you. I truly, truly hate the majority of the film. I don't think there's much in here I actually like at the end of the day. Being a big fan of those three, I hoped for a quadrilogy now with this movie to round off Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, Henry Cavill, and even Ezra Miller, but fuck no, it didn't go that way. Absolutely did not go that way. This movie came out like 2 weeks ago, and even the mainstream media and the show media were trying to defend this shit and throw article after article after article of spoilers in the title of those articles to try to get you to go, out of curiosity. Of all the different things you might see, all the different cameos of even dead people you might see in the movie, which you do, I won't spoil that too much, but I was like, what the fuck? You had the shill media spoiling shit, like Collider and CBR and whatever. What the fuck? Anyway, so Barry has to fix things after he encounters his younger self and try to get his powers for his younger self. And he also has like a villain that's kind of put off to the side. It's like another speedster, but really, and when I say in the background, I mean really in the background. Most of this film, as a matter of fact, I would say feel like reshoots. Things tacked on here and there, millions, hundreds of dollars put into this shit. to reshoot over and over again because of all the years where they could not land how they wanted to tell this movie. I haven't read the Flash Paradox that this is based on, but I've seen the animated film and it's phenomenal. If you haven't seen it, it's really, really, really good. I love what they did there. Now, eventually, these two Barrys that are trying to fix what they're dealing with are trying to find Superman because Zod is coming to the Earth for the first time ever because they're still kind of in the past, pre-Man of Steel. So they have the Man of Steel third act event happening of Zod showing up to Earth trying to invade. There is no Superman yet, though. They can't find him, and they think they might have located him. And they ask for Bruce Wayne, in this case not Ben Affleck, but they find Mr. Michael Keaton, who is now Bruce Wayne living in the same house as Ben Affleck's Batman. What the fuck? They ask him to help. He looks like the Big Lebowski. He has long hair, a really thick beard. He just is old. He's just old the way he walks. When he's in the bat suit helping them out, when he decides to go along with them, he's just fucking bow-legged and old, walking like an old man in a Batman costume. It's hilariously awful, dude. I don't even have words. It's kind of sad, because I love Michael Keaton, but I feel bad for him. Between this and Batgirl, that's not going to get released, but could have ruined his career even more, I wouldn't blame him if he never comes back. Because of how horrible this movie was, I would not be surprised if some of the choices in this movie that happen with his character are things that he wanted to do to just panic and get away from all of it, you know? There's a lot of weird shit in this movie, a lot of stupid shit, specifically in this film. A lot of the plot about timelines and everything are not explained well. It's kind of just illogical nonsense. Like, for example, they claim that certain events can happen in every timeline ever and never phase. Like, somebody might die, like, for example, Barry's mom, and maybe or maybe not, he can not change it. Maybe she has to die, just like everybody has to at some point in the world and in their life. End of their life. Anyway, there are certain events that cannot be budged. For example, the existence of a Bruce Wayne that can live in Ben Affleck's house, live in another Batman's house, whatever, drive the same cars, have the same name, the same fucking 401k, but be a completely different person, in this case a different actor playing them. That is so bizarre to me, and I do not like the direction we are going with that. I think James Gunn and everybody else involved with this, mind you, this is pre-James Gunn, but he seems to say, oh, it's the best movie ever, I'm going to include it in my universe. You mark my words, they'll turn around and say, hey, this shit ain't part of this canon anymore. Mark my words. Mark my words. That is probably something the fanboys are already saying about this movie. The shill media defense team are probably fucking saying already about this movie. This movie sucked. That's all I have to tell you. I hate it deeply. I think that the performances are really bad. Ezra Miller is trying his fucking damnedest to try to sell you on this two different Barrys thing. It's bad. It's really bad. Michael Keaton, they waste so much in this movie. There's so much wasted potential in the DCU anyway, even though I'm a massive fan of these three films I just showed you. But this movie has so much wasted potential constantly. Constantly. And Michael Keaton is the best example of that. The Ben Affleck cameo at the beginning of this movie, the like 5 minutes this is in the film, he tried to warn everybody he was only in it for like 5 minutes, and he absolutely is. Mainly towards the beginning. He has like a new costume that's not his typical Dark Knight Rises, Dark Knight Returns, whatever, costume. It's like this weird, like they took his regular cowl and they sprayed it like a light bluish gray that every other angle it changes on the film, it changes to like a different color. And then like his actual suit, it's like they didn't have a bat suit anymore. They decided to make a new one for toys, which I haven't seen a single fucking toy anywhere that looks like this thing. But it looks like they took a bunch of kitchenware and made armor out of that. Like, he looks like he has a couple of spatulas right in here, dude. It's fucking stupid looking. It's the worst, to me, the worst bat suit I've ever seen on screen. I don't care if we're talking about Adam West or the old black and white serials. I don't care what we're talking about live action wise. This is the worst Batman costume I have ever fucking seen. And I love the George Clooney Batman costume because it's when I was a kid. I like that particular movie because of that childhood nostalgia, and particularly that outfit. Minus the nipples. I could do without the nipples, but everything else looks pretty cool. Same thing with Chris O'Donnell's suit. Anyway, getting back to the point though, the performances are pretty rough. And it's not like they had the best writing to deal with either. The same chick who wrote that piece of shit Birds of Prey wrote this. She is not a masterclass in writing, but you also have like 3 story by credits, which to me means like there's like technically like 4 or 5 writers. It's just people have been catching on to so many goddamn screenplay writers attached to each of these superhero movies and Star Trek movies and Star Wars movies. They had to fix that and call it story by. To me, it seems like it's advised by these 3 other people. Anyway, Andy Spaghetti made such a bad fucking movie. The cinematography of it is bad. The actual directing of it is bad. This is the same guy who made the It remakes, and I hated them. I think Part 2 is mildly okay in the filmmaking aspect. It's better than Part 1 for sure, but it's like, those movies sucked. They had too much CGI, especially Part 1 of the It series. Wasn't a fan at all. And I wasn't confident about him coming in and doing a good job, as Miller had put a lot of passion, supposedly, behind the scenes of this, while he wasn't being a cult leader and doing all the shit that he was accused of doing. May or may not be real, I don't know, it's not my place to get into that yet, but my whole point is, the fucking guy is not a good guy, nor is he a good actor. From what I can tell, from what I've seen, of him on interviews and stuff, I just don't like him. I don't. And for him to lead in 2 of our lead roles, in kind of a buddy cop type of thing, it's bad. It's really, really, really hard to watch. But the directing of that is even worse. Like with the visuals and everything. Specifically, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next thing to tie with those visuals. The CGI. You have probably heard people, if you have not seen this movie yet, you don't realize, but you may have heard people mention horrible CGI. Dude, I'm telling you, you have no fucking clue. There is a scene in the beginning of this movie, kind of in a prologue, to introduce Barry all over again to the audience, about a hospital falling apart that Barry has to save for Batman because Batman's doing something else. Ben Affleck's Batman. And Barry has to save a bunch of babies and a nurse that fall out of a window of the hospital that's falling apart. This shit was the most stupid, illogical way to save children, small babies that can be killed from shaking too hard, that I've ever seen in my life. I couldn't believe the shit that I was seeing there or in other parts of this movie. I was kind of dumbfounded, and I kind of just got sick, like to the point where I was like, I was hoping for a quadrilogy, but I was also saying, this could be really, really bad. I've heard a lot of mixed things. I really haven't heard anybody say anything good that wasn't somebody who's connected to the industry, like Chris Stuckman, like the show media, CBR, whoever. So I was a little like, what the fuck is going to happen with this movie? At that moment, in the first 10, 15, 20 minutes of this movie, immediately I understood what my friend Austin in the middle said. I was like, this shit is going to get really bad, isn't it? And for about 40 minutes, I was okay with the weird Bruce Wayne, Michael Keaton performance. Being a Big Lebowski type of thing, it was kind of odd. Seeing all the homages to the Tim Burton movies, that was kind of nice. Having the music. The old Elfman music, I believe. Elfman's the one that did the music for it, right? That and Superman. Having that music, or John Williams, or whoever the fuck it was. I think it was Elfman. That stuff was great. I liked all of that. Anything involving Michael Keaton, aside from the actual writing and performance of his character, were really good. I liked all that. I liked the Batmobile ship thing we got to see. I liked the Batmobile showing up in this movie that was never used. Except for, like, a visual thing and for somebody to take a fucking nap in at one point. Aside from that, I really liked the Michael Keaton surroundings and the things throwing to it, like the Batcave. But most of it? No. No. I'm sorry. I was not down for it. The CGI, though, seriously, I don't think you realize how bad it is. There is one more performance I forgot about that I do think is worthwhile mentioning. Of course, many of you know Zack Snyder had picked out a girl to play Kara, aka Supergirl. Her name was Sasha Hale. Sasha Cale? Sasha Cale, I think is what her name was. She was so solid for how little they gave her as a performance, as a directing, as a writing, any of that. She was so good, and the costume looked fucking sexy. I loved it. Of course, she is Superman's cousin, and she's kind of the Superman placement in this movie. I didn't mind her. I thought she was pretty good. This is a great example right here of one of the few things I've heard people actually say good about was her. Great example to correct asshats like Sam Jackson that keep trash people over Captain Marvel. This is a great example of a new female character that's not really new, but for films and for this series, this DCU cinematic universe, whatever you want to call it, I really liked her. I thought she was really solid. I want to see more of her, as a matter of fact. I think she could do a really good, solid job if they gave her a really good script. This movie, however, it's just not that, and it's a shame to see what they do with her. Again, I talked about the music. Most of the music in this film sucks, if I'm being honest with you. Most of the sound design of the film sucks. If it's not focused around like the music for Elfman and the theme song they used for Batman from '89, it's really kind of shit. Even The Flash doesn't have like a theme song here like he does in the TV show, which I loved in the CW show. I haven't seen the original show from back in like the 90s, but the CW show has like a theme song for Barry, and it'll pump you the fuck up. And I think Grant Gustin would have been so much better here than someone like Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller, to me, he's just not a good actor, and he ruins a lot of this film for me. Between the things he did outside of the film and then the things he does in the film, he's just a fucking idiot. All around. How anybody could look at these choices that he makes in this movie and decide they were good ideas is beyond me. But that's kind of in critique of everything, of everyone involved in the film. And I wouldn't be surprised if Michael Keaton completely regrets being a part of this shit now that it's out. You haven't heard him say much about it, have you? There's a reason for that. I went into this really wanting to love it, and I actually made a video that was 2 hours long, ranting about this movie when I got home earlier. And I hated it so much, and I was so passionate about all the things I was tearing into with this piece of shit movie. Especially after seeing something newer that was so fucking good, which was Creed 3, just not even 3-4 days ago I saw it with my mom on DVD. And it was so damn good. And it was so refreshing and so enjoyable, and Michael B. Jordan had premiered his directing and everything there, and it was so good, as like the 9th Rocky movie. And then to see this piece of shit, it just kind of crashes and burns and makes me sad to see what happened here. Again, I don't have a quadrilogy, but I wasn't expecting for sure to have one, like a guaranteed win. I was hoping for the best, but this thing was disrespectful to anybody who loves the Snyder movies, minus Ezra Miller. And that's a shame, how they treated Henry here, how they treated Gal Gadot here, how they treated Ben Affleck here, and their respective versions of those characters. There's also cameos in this, involving the really shitty CGI where somebody's body might move this way and their fucking face goes over here like a glitch from Callisto Protocol. That was horrible. I think, for sure, can I tell you this? Bringing anybody back from the dead with CGI is a bad idea, and I think morally it's fucked up. I really do. I don't care if their relatives sign off for it. I think it's fucked up and I think it's wrong. So you had a lot of that in here, and one of the ones that they kept advertising with, not on the commercials, but one that everybody kept talking about that was released for sure by Andy Spaghetti himself, was that Nick Cage's Superman from Superman Returns, or whatever the film was supposed to be called, would appear in this, and he did, for like 2 seconds, as well as all these other cameos you've probably heard of. They were here and they were all lackluster, pretty much. Michael Keaton's about the only one that's fleshed out. Regardless of all of that, I have to tell you, it's not that I'm disappointed, because I wasn't expecting a whole lot. I kind of doubted everything I saw and heard about this, but it kind of is the same situation as like the new Indiana Jones Dial of the Destiny, whatever the fuck it's called. I'm not even in a rush to see that because I wasn't excited for that because I'm not a big Indiana Jones guy to begin with either. But then this, I was hoping for something at least mildly interesting, and it didn't even have that going for it. It's so cringy and just pathetic. It's pathetic. And when I say that, I mean like, it wants to be Spider-Man No Way Home so desperately. And that is the worst possible thing you could have done to this movie, is for everybody to want to be Spider-Man No Way Home. It's a shame, it's sad, it could have been so much better and so much more worthwhile to watch, and it just shit all over your bed, like Amber Heard or something. Anyway, I don't have much I like about it. It's really not even enough to save the movie's experience for me. Not even the film itself, just the experience of it. I think it kind of sucked. Between the film itself and that piece of shit, Mr. Colonel I keep talking about in front of me, I don't have much good to say about this movie. It just sucked ass. The whole experience sucked ass. Again, making a 2-hour rant video about this piece of shit, I don't know if I'll upload it or not. I kind of don't want to because there was so much that I was so passionate about that I missed massive chunks of things that I wanted to talk about, like the fight choreography and how fucking bad that was, mixed with the bad CGI. I just don't even want to possibly upload that video. Unless you guys want to see it, let me know, but 2 hours of me rambling, do you really want that? I don't think so. This is already too long as it is, over 20 minutes. Anyway, when it comes to The Flash, the 2023 film that's been in development hell forever, was it worth the wait? Fuck no. Was it worth the wait to see Michael Keaton come back as Batman? Fuck no. Was it worth it to see Ben Affleck come back for the final time? Fuck no. It absolutely was not. It was such a mess. It was such a trashy piece of shit that had nothing going for it. And I can't figure out if the film thinks it's a kid's film or not, because seeing Ezra Miller naked a couple of times is kind of weird, if I'm being honest with you. Yeah, that happens in here. Not full body, but just enough to bother me. You know what I mean? It was weird. The whole movie is weird. I don't know what its target demographic was supposed to be. It's just a piece of shit. That's all it is. It's just a fucking big old piece of shit. If I had to rate it on a 5-star basis, I think I'd give The Flash maybe a 1 out of 5 stars. I fucking hated this. It was awful. My boy Austin proved the point of what he said. He and I typically have very similar tastes in movies, but man, this was a fantastic example of when he was 1000% right. And I think most people are on the same board of this. I haven't heard anybody at work say they went to see this, much less that they liked it or hated it. So that should tell you everything you need to know. This was a flop, and for good reason. Anyway, have you seen The Flash from 2023? What do you think about it? I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments down in the comment section down below, folks. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for hearing me ramble and rant. Again, if you want that 2-hour video, let me know. It's really not very good. It's the same style as this, unedited and everything, but fuck, man. My rants were pretty good, but I forgot so much that it's like, I don't know. Kind of seemed like it wasn't worth it. Anyway, thank you all for watching, guys. God bless you all, and goodbye.